Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. We will begin now, and hopefully, a couple more participants will also be able to join us once we begin. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, depending on where you are joining us from today. A very warm welcome to our information session on responding to technical assistance requests. My name is Rabiel, and I'll be moderating the session today on behalf of the Santiago Network Secretariat. Our session today will provide an overview of how members and interested organizations, bodies, networks, and experts can respond to the technical assistance requests under the Santiago Network, with a particular focus on the call for proposals modality, as well as the related procedural requirements and expectations for the submissions. We hope that today we'll aim to ensure all participants have a clear understanding of these modalities, eligibility considerations, and evaluation steps. And we'll also be able to have a dedicated Q&A for the second half of the session, so there will be plenty of space to ask questions and require any clarification that you may have. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Please do keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. During the Q&A, we invite everyone to ask questions and just raise your hand so you can unmute yourselves, but we can also take any questions in chat based on your preference. When you are raising your hand during the Q&A, you can find the raise hand function next to the heart emoji at the bottom, but please feel free to nudge us in chat if you have any technical difficulties. The session today will be for 60 minutes. We will also be recording this, so we will be able to provide this on our webpage after the fact, and you are welcome to share that with any colleagues who are unable to join us today. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague Kristen Meyer, who will start us off with the presentation and who will then be complemented by my colleague Timo Schmidt. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Robert. And welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. It's nice to see so much interest, and we hope that this session will be helpful for you in engaging with technical assistance under the Santiago Network. But before we dive into the process, maybe just a few trends on what we're seeing with regards to technical assistance and the requests that the Secretariat is receiving. We're seeing a few common themes that are coming through many of the requests, and also the conversations that we're having with various representatives from developing countries. And there are three that are sort of the main topics, which is around loss and damage data, and especially how to measure the impact of loss and damage policy, and the integration of loss and damage into existing climate change policies, and as well as loss and damage financing, and particularly also access to additional financing for larger loss and damage projects. And with that, also the project preparation phase. We're also seeing a few cross-cutting themes, and I think these are probably not very surprising. If you're already working in this space, you will know that the Warsaw International Mechanism expert groups cover quite a few of these topics already, including non-economic losses, as well as also like how to engage local actors and define loss and damage overall. We're seeing an increasing number of requests, which is also the reason why we thought this webinar would be very interesting for interested organizations, bodies, networks, and experts, because over the next few weeks and months, there will be more opportunities to engage on technical assistance. And we're seeing quite a bit of a regional diversity as well. So do stay tuned for opportunities across different regions and developing countries, including least developed countries and small island developing states. If we move to the next slide, then we'll dive right in. So as you may know, if you have reviewed the guidelines for responding to requests for technical assistance, you will know that the Secretariat, as the default, applies an open and transparent process when it comes to selecting a member from the network to deliver the technical assistance. But the specific modality of how this is done really depends on the specific request that the Secretariat receives. I have put here calls for proposals in bold because for the time being, this has been the main modality that the Secretariat has been using. And you probably remember the first call for proposals that was released last year was the one for Vanuatu. And now we have two more that are currently advertised for Yemen and the Cook Islands. So most likely this is quite a common approach, but there are different modalities that can be used also, for instance, terms of reference if a request would be more better served by, for instance, an individual expert, but also other modalities depending on what the requester needs and would like to see. It is also possible for members of the network, so the organizations, bodies, networks, and experts, to fully or also co-finance the technical assistance delivery. But we will talk a little bit more about that. But this is something that also in the process, we encourage an indication of whether there's existing funding that could be used towards the delivery of this. And then I've included a small graphic here just for you to get a better idea sort of the process that is being applied. So when the Secretariat receives a request, then we work together with the requester to put this into a modality, in this case, in most of the cases, a calls for proposal. Um, that serves that requester the best, and also in terms of the activities that they would like to see and the results of the technical assistance, and then that is launched, and then the members and the OB&Es can respond to that. If we move to the next slide. So we would like to encourage you to regularly check the Santiago Network website. There is a page specifically for opportunities where the calls for proposals will be listed. But also, if you are already a member of the network or a future member, then you will also be informed specifically about new opportunities arising. And Timo can talk a little bit more about that. But you would get then notifications essentially about new opportunities and calls for proposals that are being launched. With this, also just to mention that for each specific request, of course, the Secretariat can also receive any requests for clarification that pertain to the particular call for proposals. For that, there is an email address listed in the call for proposals, so do have a look and that you send it to the right email. Any questions that you have, and after that, the responses to those questions will also be posted anonymously so that everyone can see what questions the Secretariat has received and everyone is on the same page. If we move to the next slide. So now a little bit more on the actual content of a proposal in response to a call for proposals. So if you decide you would like to engage and you think that you're a good fit to deliver the technical assistance, you will see in the call for proposals itself a few different sections that help you understand what exactly the technical assistance is about and how to apply to deliver the technical assistance. One section is just a simple background, and I didn't put that on this slide because it's just background on the Santiago Network itself, with a few links to specific documents that we would like to encourage you to also read and understand, because they give an overview of how the Santiago Network itself functions and the modalities. But more importantly is the section 2 which looks at the particulars of the request. So here you would find the specific context for the country or region in question, the objectives and scope, and expected results and activities, detailed, as well as the beneficiaries and any initiatives or ongoing initiatives that should be borne in mind and complementary to the technical assistance. It also gives you most of the time a budget ceiling, as well as the timeline for the delivery of the technical assistance, so how quickly we would expect the results to be achieved. And then also some important dates, which includes the date for by when you can ask clarification questions about the calls for proposals, as well as important dates like the submission deadline and expected date of the grant to be contracted. Then there's also a section that specifies some requirements around the approach and methodology that is expected, the implementation plan, monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and also the budget and how the budget should be put together. So again, would encourage you to have a look at that because it will help you understand what kind of information also the Secretariat is looking for in your proposal itself. And then the last section in the calls for proposals looks at the evaluation method and criteria. So have a close look at that because the criteria is the place of how each proposal will be evaluated and scored in the end. If we move to the next slide. So here just a very quick overview, and you will see that in the calls for proposals, there are these documents are linked, so you can have a look at the templates. But essentially, all calls of proposals require a proposal document. So there is the place where you would describe your approach and methodology, the implementation plan, the structure of your team and who will be involved, any subcontractors that you might have or consortium partners, if it applies. Then there's also a document called declarations. They are very important, and I will speak a little bit more in detail about this. You will have a section on any conflict of interest disclosures and any other types of disclosures, as well as some due diligence questions that you have to answer and sign against. And then finally, the financial proposal. And again, there's some instructions also to that under the requirements section of how to put this together. And then any other relevant supplementary documentation that you would like to submit as part of your proposal. On some occasions, depending on what the request is, there might be additional documentation that the Secretariat would ask OBNEs to submit, for instance, a risk register or anything else that pertains to the particular request. If we go to the next slide, please.
Thank you. I'll jump in here. Thanks so much, Kristin. This is now pertaining to eligibility around calls for proposals. Here, as was pointed out as well already, it is members of the Santiago Network who are eligible to respond to technical assistance requests in this form, calls for proposals. Interested organizations, bodies, networks, and experts, or in short, OBNEs, may respond to a call for proposal, provided they also submit their expression of interest for membership in line with the membership guidelines before the deadline of the call for a proposal. So there's a bit of a mouthful, but the importance here is to submit the expression of interest just ahead of the deadline of that call for proposals. Of course, any organization, body, network, or expert selected to respond to the call for proposals must have then also been confirmed as a member of the Santiago Network prior to the selection. The Santiago Network Secretariat is, of course, aware of the timelines and will also ensure timely processing of the EOIs of course, that would also include any requests for additional information. So it is important that OBNEs then also respond in a timely fashion to those. Because of that, it is also highly recommended that interested OBNEs that are not currently members yet of the network, but are eligible under the membership criteria, that they submit their expressions of interest as soon as possible to avoid any delays. More information on that process and the criteria can also be found on the Santiago Network membership page. Moving forward, you can see here the links to the portal. The Santiago Network portal is sort of the central hub of where interested OBNEs can submit their expression of interest. We now also have a video that is, available on YouTube. Let me just briefly check if you can see that already. I will just play it here for your view. Could you perhaps confirm, Kristen, if it's on the screen? Perfect. So this guides you on how to essentially submit your expression of interest. You can visit the portal. We'll drop the link in the chat. It is available in all 6 UN languages. So you can select the language and then continue to the portal. From here, you just need to enter your email address. And many of you are already registered or members, in fact, so you will have gone through this process. You will then receive a verification code, which you can enter. And with that, you can then access the portal after also choosing the track you would want to register for. So in this case, a membership. So here you click on potential member and you fill in your information. And then after your account has been reviewed by the secretariat, you will be able to log in. And from there, it is relatively straightforward. You move to membership on the menu and then click apply. This will bring you to the form. And from there, you can scroll down. The form essentially guides you through the process of submitting your expression of interest. Of course, if there are any questions, you can always reach out to the secretariat. And we will share contact details as well after the meeting. And you will be able here to submit any necessary required documentation. And of course, importantly, once you have completed the expression of interest form, you click submit. All right, so moving back. One moment, please. Here we go. Oh, it started again. Apologies for that. It's always a bit risky to share a video, but here we go. All right. Thank you. So yeah, just moving on the membership criteria. There are 3 criteria that interested OBNEs have to meet. The first criterion here speaks about proven expertise in topics relevant to averting, minimizing, and addressing loss and damage. There you will be able, if you're an expert, for instance, upload your CV. If you're an organization, your organigram. Of course, any information that you share will be treated confidentially. The second criterion is about demonstrated experience. So you have to demonstrate at least 3 years of experience in a topic relevant to loss and damage in providing technical assistance. And the third one is around commitments. So there's a form around commitments that needs to be signed for you to be eligible as a member. That sums up the criteria. Now, just a brief word around collaboration. So within the Santiago Network portal, there are also tools to help you collaborate with others and engage in consortia. Interested OBNEs and members are expected to form consortia on their own and engage in that regard. But of course, you can use these tools to help you facilitate in that process. So on the one hand, we have the members directory. The directory is essentially a central hub where all the members are listed, including their thematic expertise. You will be able to view their profiles if you're a member on the portal. also see which thematic expertise they are mainly engaging on, and then also connect with them or their focal points to explore a possible collaboration. An upcoming feature will also include a TA board where the different TA requests, the calls for proposals in this case, are added, and then you will be able to flag your interests and also highlight if you seek to engage on any specific components of a technical assistance request with others. So you'll be able to collaborate and see collaboration. This is a tool that is also accessible to organization bodies, networks, and experts registered on the portal, so not just for members. And finally, also, we have a portal calendar as well for members on the portal. There you have an overview of the deadlines as well, both with regard to requests for clarification, but also to the actual deadlines of the calls for proposals. So any information you can also find there and have an overview of the relevant ones. With that, I will pass it back to Kristen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Timo. Just a few quick words on sort of the evaluation and selection criteria. This is a very general overview of the criteria that we most commonly see or that are sort of part of the standard process. But of course, these are usually tailored much more specifically to the particular request and what is needed to deliver the particular technical assistance. So you will see that they are much more specific for each of the calls for proposals. But generally, and this will not change, if you would like to deliver technical assistance, you have to be a member of the Santiago Network. Now, for the calls for proposals that are currently published, so for Yemen and the Cook Islands, if you're not yet a member, as Timo has explained, you can send your expressions of interest at the same time as you are submitting your proposal to deliver the technical assistance. But in order to be finally selected, you would need to be a member upon signature of a grant agreement. So that is very important that you also make sure, if you're not yet a member, that you submit your expression of interest, ideally as soon as possible, but latest within the deadline indicated in the call for proposals. The other eligibility criteria relates to being in compliance with the conflict of interest guidelines and rules. I will talk about that a little bit more, but this is just to avoid any conflicts of interest. And of course, make sure that you have submitted all the relevant documents and forms. So the templates that I already presented, the proposal, the declarations, and the financial proposal, as well as any additional documents that are requested in the call for proposals. And then also as part of the eligibility, there will be a basic due diligence check as well. And then then there are criteria around the technical capacity and expertise of the organization, body, network, and expert. And most of the time, again, this can vary, but most of the time there would be a requirement of 3 years of minimum proven experience in implementing similar types of technical assistance. Everyone who is a member would most likely meet that one very easily because it's also a criteria for membership to have 3 years of experience in a relevant area. And then also having experience implementing initiatives in the specific region or country context. Ideally also, again, this can vary from call to proposal to call to proposal. Presence in the region or country or area could also be an advantage. And of course, also the overall capability to deliver the technical assistance effectively would also be assessed. And then there are sections around the technical approach or the approach that is the approach and methodology and implementation plan that is proposed. And here it's really about looking at whether the approach is consistent with what is described in the call for proposals, so what the country would like to see. delivered, and also ensuring the effectiveness and efficiency of the delivery as well. And then there are some standard requirements around preventing sexual exploitation and abuse, as well as health and safety requirements as well. When it comes to the financial proposal and criteria, here the Secretariat would generally look at the cost effectiveness and again the delivery efficiency, whether the budget is within the budget ceiling, if there's one indicated in the call for proposals, as well as whether the budget is generally appropriate and balanced across. And here also in the financial proposal would be the time to indicate whether there's any co-financing that you would envisage as well, but it's not assessed as a main criteria for the award or not. What is really important to highlight is that, and you will see this in the technical guidelines as well, that the technical part is weighted much higher than the financial part, because it's really important to have the right technical expertise to deliver the technical systems. And then, of course, there might be additional criteria depending on what the call for proposals is about and what specific expertise will be required. If we move to the next slide, just a very quick overview of the evaluation process itself. So there will be the preliminary screening, and this will look at whether you meet the eligibility and due diligence check, whether you have submitted all the documentation that is required, and then also to check whether you're already a member or you have submitted an expression of interest at the same time as the proposal to deliver the technical assistance. And then the evaluation is divided into two parts. One is the technical evaluation, and then the other one, the financial evaluation. And as mentioned, the technical evaluation is weighted much higher generally than the financial evaluation, because the Secretariat really wants to make sure that the expertise and experience required to deliver the highest standard of the technical assistance is met, and that the best service can be delivered to the requester within the developing country. So again, this would be assessing it based on the criteria, the applicant's capacity and expertise, the methodology that has been proposed, as well as the implementation plan, the key personnel proposed, and any relevant past experience. And then on the financial evaluation side, again, looking at the cost effectiveness and delivery efficiency. Maybe just also to highlight that in the evaluation process, the evaluators will not look at the financial proposal until the technical evaluation has been concluded. So only those that pass through the technical evaluation will actually have a chance to be evaluated also on their financial proposal. And I think there's one more slide, and then we'll hand over to you. It's just to say a few words about the conflict of interest. Here, very important to encourage you to have a look at the guidelines related to conflict of interest to understand how the disclosure works. So maybe just to say that, of course, and you're probably all aware, it would be a direct conflict of interest if there was some personal or financial interest involved. Also, if you as a member or as an organization expert and so on have a certain expertise and you were invited by the Secretariat to support in whatever capacity with the particular request, then also you wouldn't be able to engage with that request anymore. But in most cases, what might happen is that you were perhaps, because you are supporting your government in your country, for instance, you might get involved in the early stages of supporting your government with the development of a request. But that doesn't automatically exclude you from also delivering it. But you have to, if you were involved, you have to disclose this in your proposal. And there's a specific section where it asks you to state whether you had any involvement in supporting with the development of the original request that was submitted to the Secretariat. And then also just to say, because it might be the case, for instance, if you're a community-based organization and you might want to submit a request yourself, then of course you're not eligible to deliver your own request. But that is probably a case that will not happen very often. More common would be if there was some support given for developing a request at some stage, some expertise, but it doesn't lead to exclusion, but needs to be disclosed. And with that, I would stop here and hand back to Rabail and then open for questions.
Thank you very much, Kristen and Timo, for that detailed overview. We will open up for the Q&A. We see that there are already a lot of questions in chat, so we are taking note of those. But we also invite anyone who has questions, even if you've already put it in chat, if you would like to share them live, please do raise your hand. The raise hand function is available next to the react button with the heart symbol. So I will now invite anyone who has any questions to raise their hands. Alternatively, to please add them in chat and we will run through them one by one. To begin with, let me hand over to Tariq Emmett. Please unmute yourself and share your question with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this introduction and for this information session. Well, regarding the proposal in Yemen, my first question is about, can we just do like a consortium to apply for this proposal for this technical expertise, like two organizations can apply for that? And also for the sharing cost, we do have a sharing cost. Can we add that sharing cost to the proposal? And that is that gonna help in terms of like the proper way in terms of accepting the proposal? The third thing is actually the coordination with the government. Do we need to have like endorsement letter from the government, or maybe especially from the Ministry of Water and Environment, regarding the proposal and supporting the idea? Another thing is actually the software itself, because we need to make it forward from another software to Delta software. Do we need to apply that software to all the government? Because you have mentioned that the 10 governments under the international recognized government. Do we need to put all the software, apply it into all these governments? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tariq. We will take a couple of more questions and then I will hand it over to my colleagues to answer them one by one. So next, I'll hand over to Anam Farouk.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for a really interesting and useful session. I have a question. So I'm the autistic founder of Heal Earth Alliance, but we've not been functional for 3 years. So I was wondering if there is a mechanism around this, because we've got a good youth base that would like to engage with the Santiago Network from a neuro-inclusive element, but it's just experience requirement is something that we're struggling to meet because of, we were registered this year. So if there is a way that we can still be involved and be part of the network for membership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anam. Branca Picato.
Hi, good morning. I'm Branca Picato. I'm from Article 25. So I have a few questions. I'm sorry. One of them relates to the membership. Is there a cost to the membership? That's my first question. My second question is about your calls. This was a very informative session, but one thing that's still not very clear to me is the calls that currently you have open on your website seem to be quite broad in terms of what you're looking for. So if you as an organization, so say we are an architecture practice, we sometimes partner with engineers, but there is more required to the calls that you, for example, have out at the moment, can your expressions of interest can your expressions of interest be for only part of the call, or do you actually need to assemble the full team to respond to the call? And my last question is relates to the fact that all, or at least the two calls that you currently have open, are advertised on the United Nations Global Marketplace. And there's a very simple button. If you're a member of the UNGM, there's a very simple button called Express Interest. And you can just click that, which seems to me that it doesn't reply to your full requirements. So it would be good if you could clarify if clicking express interest is enough, or if you actually need the full submission to be done, which I guess this is going to be the correct answer, but just to clarify. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Branka. We will take one more in this round. So I will hand over to Ben Andrews and then we'll come back on these questions.
Thank you very much. Really useful call so far. I'm Ben Andrews from Adapt 40. Was just wondering, when we're bidding for these calls, is it possible to include consultancies that aren't part of the network? So maybe locally based consultancies that aren't established Santiago Network members. Is it okay to include them if we as Adapt 40 are a member, but they are not? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ben. Before I hand over to my colleagues, just a couple of quick points on any questions that are specifically related to the open calls for proposals. Please do address this on any specific ones to our proposals email address that we've put in chat. I will put it in chat again. It's proposals@santiago-network.org. So we can take any specific CFP related questions there. If you have any questions related to the individual statuses of membership, if you've submitted an expression of interest, I've also put in our member email, which I will add again. Please do reach out there. But we're happy to take any general questions. I will now hand over to my colleague Timo to first address the questions on the membership, and then we will come back on the technical assistance. Thank you so much. Timo, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I believe there are two, if not three questions specifically on membership. So first to Anum Farouk, thank you very much for your question on your interest in engaging with the network as a member, as a youth-led alliance. Very much understand that you had a period of not being functional. My suggestion would be to submit an expression of interest regardless, and for us to then see how we can support you in that process. There is also a modality for exemption specifically to those who represent constituencies such as youth. So it is always a case-by-case basis to kind of see under which context that might apply. This would be specifically referring to an exemption under criterion 2. So with that, I would suggest to send an expression of interest. But if you have any more specific questions around it, please feel free to also reach out to us on the members at Santiago-network.org email. Then Branka, there was a quick question around membership costs, and just to assure that there are no costs associated with membership. There are, of course, commitments associated with that, and you will receive those as part of the onboarding, which are, for example, to adhere also to the principles under the 11th preamble paragraph of the Paris Agreement, etc., but no financial commitments, certainly. There was one other question, which I'll come back to in the second round, but I'll leave it here and then pass it to Kristen for now. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'll try my best to address all the many very interesting questions. When it comes to the formation of consortia, so this is really up to each of you how you would like to deliver the technical assistance, what approach and methodology and implementation plan you would like to use. I would encourage you to have a very close look at what is required in terms of the activities and the expected results, and then also the criteria that come with the specific call for proposals, because each of them is a little bit different and the requirements are a little bit different. So it's really sort of more of a judgment call of what expertise and experience you already bring and where you think additional expertise from another member might be beneficial. When it comes to the whole request versus parts of it, there might be instances where the call for proposals allows for partial proposals. There's actually a section that you will see in the call for proposals document where this is specified, whether the expectation is that one applicant or a consortium of applicants would cover all the activities, or whether it would be possible to cover partial activities and make a proposal just for those particular ones. So do have a look at that, because it can again vary from call to call. For the two that are out at the moment, if I remember correctly, for both of them, we expect that all the activities would be covered in one proposal. So then again, you would have to think about what expertise and experience you would need to do that, and whether it makes sense to form a consortium to do that. What other question did we have? There was, the question about including consultancies who are not members. So again, in the call for proposals, you will see a section on subgranting, and a specification that subgrantees who are engaging specifically on technical aspects in the delivery of the technical assistance actually would need to be members as well. This is a requirement in terms of really having the expertise and making sure that there is some sort of due diligence check beforehand in terms of being able to deliver on the technical assistance. So do have a very close look at the call for proposal documents. Rabea, maybe if I missed anything, could you point me to that? Otherwise, I know there were some specific questions on the call for proposals related to Yemen, and please do send those in writing to the email address in the chat, proposals@santiagonetwork.org, because we do think that those are important questions that everyone should see the response on, and we would like to publish that also then anonymously, of course, in terms of the responses on the website, so that everyone is on the same page. So yeah, please do share those. But Rabel, if there's anything that I missed, please do point those to me. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Kristen. I'm just running through our list as well. So I'll take a couple more questions. And also, if anyone has asked a question live that we didn't address all the points of, please do feel free to flag in the chat and we will pick up on that. So I will now hand off to Mediana Rayana for your question.
Hello, thank you. I'm Mediana from Global Shield Secretariat, and we're a new member of Santiago Network. I have a question regarding the possible technical assistance for FRLD BIM request, funding request. I heard that there was a discussion suggesting that Santiago Network might provide TA for these proposals. So my question is there any plans from Santiago Networks to provide such TA, and if there are any updates on this plan? Because we also are trying to provide this technical assistance for our Global Shield countries. So not to duplicate any efforts and for coordination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mediana. Next, we have Muhammad Ali.
Thank you so much. This is Muhammad Ali from BCABHD Yemen. Thank you so much for facilitating this this meeting. Just the questions that I have. First, I'm about to be a membership of Santiago Network. I'm the final stage of sending the documents to the membership portal. Just the questions that I have, is it possible for the local NGOs to apply for this call? And I'm just looking for the documents that I can apply for the concept note for sending the expression of interest and the proposal template and the budget and so on. I did not find them in the system. I don't know why. Is it that because I'm still not being a membership of Santiago, or there is another possible links that can be guiding me directly to the documents? If possible, that I would ask you, kindly to share with us the links that can guide me directly to the templates that I can apply for, if it is possible for the local to apply for this call. Looking forward to provide me more details about this. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Next, we have Daniela.
Hi, good morning, and thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been really a very informative session so far. I had a couple of questions, if I may. One is around M&E cost. I'm assuming these would be under the direct cost of the portion of the budget, but I just want to get confirmation and that could include travel, field assessments, etc. Another question I had was around the UN modalities. I saw that the UN to UN template was included, so I'm assuming that in that case, the issue around the UNGM and UNOPS vendor is not applicable in this case, but it would be great to get confirmation on that. And on a related note, just to try to understand in terms of indirect costs, we would apply the standard UN to UN indirect costs, I'm assuming. But also it would be great to hear from you on that one. And then my final point is just a point of clarification. So from the previous responses from the Secretariat, my understanding is that both consortium and subgrantees need to be Santiago Network members. Is that correct? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daniela. I don't see any other hands. So before I hand over to my colleagues, I'll just respond on a couple of the general questions. We will be uploading the recording of the session as well as the presentation on our website on the event page for today's session. So that will be made available later today or by tomorrow. We do also have a Q&A sheet online that's been posted and updated together with the call for proposals documents on UNGM. So many of the more specific questions on the CFPs are already answered there. We would also direct you to check there and make sure that any questions you have are not addressed there already. And that sheet is also updated as new questions are received. So information will be available there. We also had a question on translations. Currently, the session is only available in English, but if you do have any questions, you are welcome to address us in your language over email, and we'll try our best to get back to you as soon as possible. I think those are all the more general questions. I'll hand over then to Timo to address some of the additional questions on membership.
Thank you so much, Robel, and thanks everyone for your questions. There were two questions which were a bit similar on engaging with other members through the portal to form a better response and to team up for calls for proposals. Just to point out again the notes around collaboration. So we do have a members directory on the portal that's accessible to all members, where you can also scan the existing membership and filter it depending on the thematic expertise and the types of partners that you seek to engage with. We're also planning to launch a TA board around which you could directly indicate your interest for engaging on specific CFPs, and if you would like to cover specific components as well. So this will be another opportunity, and that is also accessible to registered OBNEs on the portal, so not just members. Then there was a question around, again, around subgranting from Mediana, and there again, yeah, subgranting may be possible, that will be referenced in the specific CFPs. The CFP also specifies that some subgrantees engaging in the technical part of the TA need to be a member. So yes, that is correct, they need to be a member. Then Hans Olsen also had a question on on the current members and network. We will share the link again to the webpage with the members list for you here in the chat, so you have an easy access for that. I believe that is it on the membership side. So over to Kristen. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. On the question of whether local organizations can engage and prepare a proposal, of course, if you feel like you meet all the criteria and you have the expertise and experience, or you want to form a consortium with other OBNEs, then definitely. What we have experienced so far with Vanuatu, for instance, is that this was very welcomed by by the government, that there was a local organization involved that also came from an indigenous people's background. So we would say yes, very much encouraged. Then on the more operational aspects around M&E costs, yes, this can be part of the budget. There are specific requirements when it comes to grants that are over $250,000. So there will be specific also requirements in the call for proposals related to monitoring and evaluation when the grant is higher. So do have a look at that as well. Then also UN entities should also register on UNGM. So just to remind everyone that UNGM is the portal to submit your proposals through, and that you should register there. And then when it comes to the indirect costs within the budget, you will see that in the financial proposal template, that this is already included there. So do have a look at the templates. And then if you have any questions later, do reach out. But it should all be outlined there. I don't see any other questions. Maybe also just as a reminder, and Rabail has already said it, if you do go on the UNGM site for the specific call for proposals, you will see that on a regular basis, a question and answer sheet will be uploaded regularly. So do go back and have a look, because these would be the questions that the Secretariat is receiving by email, and the responses will be posted there. So many of your questions may actually already have been addressed there as well. Yeah, with that, I'll hand back to Rabail for now.
Thanks, Kristen. Just before we take more live questions, we had a couple of questions in chat from earlier in the session on the evaluation process. There was one question on whether there is a committee for technical evaluation. We also had a couple of questions asking about the financial evaluation. So just maybe to hand over to you, Kristen, on the general answers on some of these that could cover it. And as said before, on the more specific ones per CFP, that would be addressed directly to the proposals email. But over to you on those ones, and then we can take some additional questions.
Yeah, on the evaluation committee, yes, so there will be an evaluation committee that the Secretariat will put together, which will then be responsible for looking at the technical evaluation and the financial evaluation of the proposals. These committees will be established for each of the calls for proposals, so the composition might vary across. So cannot say more on that, but essentially the committee will look at the criteria and then score the proposals according to the criteria that are communicated in the calls for proposals. Rabail, maybe could you repeat what the specific question is on the financial proposal?
Sure, Kristen, just a couple of questions on whether having financial co-financing, no financing, or secured financing has any impact on the evaluation process.
Yeah, as a general principle, and again, this can vary from call to proposals to call to proposals. is that the technical part is the higher weighted part, and the co-financing is not an exclusionary criterion. So if you come with no co-financing, that is fine. You will not be penalized for that. But of course, it's always good to have additional financing if you do have resources that can be put towards the particular technical assistance. Then do mention that as well. But it's not an exclusion criterion from being selected necessarily.
Great. Thank you very much, Kristen. For our final question, I'll just go to Rasha Jarhum and then Muhammad Ali. I'm not sure if if your hand is from before or a new question, but if you wouldn't mind adding it in chat, then we can take note. Just before I hand over to Rasha, we are coming up to the end of our session. So that will be the final question for today, but we've also taken note of any open questions and we'll be very happy to answer over email or get in touch with you directly where there were specific cases mentioned. So just very quickly over to Rasha and then we'll close the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabia, and I thank you for organizing this important webinar. My question is about Yemen's call, whether there is like a budget or a duration for it, and if like we're can make it long term or is it just a small duration? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Rasha. I think on that one, the answer should be available directly on the Q&A for the Yemen proposal, but just to check if there's anything from Timur or Kristen to add there. Great. So again, we will put in the relevant email addresses in the chat and we will upload the session so that that is available. Thank you very much to everyone for
Yes.
your
Yes,
engagement.
Ms. Rabi,
Sorry, go ahead.
yes, just Mayraz is the new hand rising. Just the question that thank you so much for addressing my first part of the question that national NGO can apply for this call and be a membership of Santiago Network. The second question is about the relevant documents. I could not find them in the portal rather than the system. Can you please share us, a guiding link directly that take us directly to the templates?
Sure, Mohammed, if you don't mind putting in your email address just in the chat, we'd be happy to share the links directly with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been a very helpful and engaging session. We've also gotten an idea of some of the questions that you have. So we will also make an effort on our part to reach out directly, but to answer some of the more frequently asked questions through our platforms. I think we are right at 9 o'clock, so ending exactly on time. I just want to thank my colleagues Timo and Kristen for their inputs, and please keep an eye out for the recording as well as the additional information on our website and the specific email addresses listed. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to continuing our engagement with you.